Tonight we're going to read The Sneetches by Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss books, and this happens to be one of my favorites. The Sneetches. Now the Star Belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The Plain Belly Sneetches had none upon thars. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. See a little star on his belly? And there's one without a star. But because they had stars, all the Star Belly Sneetches would brag, "We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches." With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. "We'll have nothing to do with the plain-bellied sort." And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the Star Belly's children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You only could play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon thars. Oh, that's sad. They're not allowed to play. These guys are all left out. When the Star Belly Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics or parties or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the Plain Belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. Oh, that doesn't seem right. These guys are all having a barbecue, and then these guys are all just sad and left out. But one day, it seems, while the Plain Belly Sneetches were moping and doping along on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My friends," he announced in a voice clear and keen, "my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles, I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you, I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at a great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed." Look at his silly car. Sylvester McMonkey McBean. I wonder what he's up to, what he's gonna sell them. Then quickly Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, "You want stars like the Star Belly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clamored inside. Then the big machine roared, and it clonked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about. But the thing really worked. When the Plain Belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon thars. So you can see them going in with no stars and popping out with stars. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start, "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties, and now we can go to your Frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the first. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst. But now how in the world will we know," they all frowned, "if which kind is what and the other way around?" So the Star Belly Sneetches still think they are better than the Plain Belly Sneetches, even though they all have stars now. Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who, that's perfectly true, but come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on the beaches, and it'll cost you $10 eaches." Uh-oh, I wonder what his plan is. "Belly stars are no longer in style," said McBean. "What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on thars." And that handy machine worked very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. They're going in with the stars and coming out without, so that they can tell themselves apart. He's pretty happy. He's just making a lot of money. Then, with snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks, and they let out a shout. We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are the Sneetches without. Then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you could probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. Uh-oh. This Sylvester guy, I don't know about him. All the rest of that day, on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machines they raced round and about again. Changing their stars every minute or two, they kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the Plain nor the Star Belly Sneetches knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. They just keep going around and around in the machine. And Mr. McBean just keeps on piling up his money. What a guy. Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in the car up the beach. They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. So there he goes with all of his money. Just laughing. They're all sad and just exhausted and have no money now. But McBean was quite wrong, I'm quite happy to say, that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had won or not upon thars. Aw, that end. It was very sweet. They ended up learning that they were all the same, whether they had stars in their belly or not. The Zacks. One day making tracks in the prairie of Prax came a north-going Zacks and a south-going Zacks. And it happened that both of them came to a place where they bumped. There they stood, foot to foot, face to face. Look here now, the north-going Zacks said, I say. You're blocking my path. You're right in my way. I'm a north-going Zacks, and I always go north. Get out of my way. Now let me go forth. Who's in whose way, snapped the south-going Zacks. I always go south, making south-going tracks. So you're in my way, and I ask that you move, and let me go south in my south-going groove. Then the north-going Zacks puffed up his chest with pride. I never, he said, take a step to one side, and I'll prove to you that I won't change my ways if I have to keep standing here 59 days. Uh-oh, who's gonna move? They both seem pretty angry. And I'll prove to you, yelled the south-going Zacks, that I can stand here in the prairie of Prax for 59 years. And I live by a rule that I learned as a boy back in south-going school. Never budge. That's my rule. Never budge in the least. Not an inch to the west, not an inch to the east. I'll stay here, not budging. I can and I will, if it makes you and me in the whole world stand still. Oh no. Well, of course the world didn't stand still. The world grew. In a couple of years, the new highway came through, and they built it right over those two stubborn Zacks and left them there, standing unbudged in their tracks. Can you see them in the... They're building a city around them because they haven't budged. It's very stubborn Zacks. And that's the end. The end of the Zacks. Too Many Daves by Dr. Seuss. Did I ever tell you that Mrs. McCabe had 23 sons and she named them all Dave? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of Daves. Well, she did, and that wasn't a smart thing to do. You see, when she wants one and calls out, "Yoo-hoo! Come into the house, Dave," she doesn't get one. All 23 Daves of hers come on the run. There they are, all running in. This made things quite difficult at the McCaves, as you can imagine, with so many Daves, and often she wishes that when they were born, she had named one of them Bodkin Van Horn, and one of them Who's Foos, and one of them Snim, and one of them Hot Shot, and one Sunny Jim, and one of them Shadrach, and one of them Blinky, and one of them Stuffy, and one of them Stinky, and one Put Put, and another one Moonface, another one Marvin O' Gravel Balloon Face, and one of them Ziggy, and one Soggy Muff, one Buffalo Bill, and one Biffalo Buff, and one of them Sneepy, and one Weepy Weed, and one Paris Garters, and one Harris Tweed, and one of them Sir Michael Carmichael Zut, and one of them Oliver Bolivar Butt, and one of them Zanzibar Buck McFate, but she didn't do it, and now it's too late. That's the end of Too Many Daves. She just looks exhausted. Poor lady. Oh. The next one we're going to read is called What Was I Scared Of? By Dr. Seuss. Well, I was walking in the night and I saw nothing scary, for I have never been afraid of nothing, not very. Then I was deep within the woods when suddenly I spied them. I saw a pair of pale green pants with nobody inside them. I wasn't scared, but yet I stopped. What could these pants be there for? What could a pair of pants at night be standing in the air for? What are those pants doing? And then they moved. Those empty pants, they kind of started jumping, and then my heart, I must admit, it kind of started thumping. So I got out fast as I could go, sir. I wasn't scared, but pants like that, I do not care for. No, sir. Oh no, the pants are gonna chase him? After that, a week went by. Then one dark night in Greenwich, I had to do an errand there and fetch some Greenwich spinach. Well, I had fetched the spinach. I was starting back through town when those pants raced around a corner and they almost knocked me down. I lost my Greenwich spinach, but I didn't even care. I ran for home. Believe me, I really had a scare. Now, bicycles were never made for pale green pants to ride them, especially spooky pale green pants with nobody inside them. Oh, he dropped his spinach. And the next night, I was fishing for doubt trout on Rover River. When those pants came rowing toward me, well, I started to shiver. And by now, I was so frightened that I'll tell you, but I hate to. I screamed and I rode away and lost my hook and line and bait too. Oh, he was so scared. That would be scary. Those pants are just haunting him. I ran and I found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my britches, but I stayed there anyway. I stayed all night, the next night too. I'd be there still, no doubt, but I had an errand to do. So the next night, I went out. There he is hiding in his bush. Poor guy. I had to do an errand, had to pick a peck of snide. In a dark and gloomy snide field, there was almost 9 miles wide. I said, I do not fear those pants with nobody inside them. I said and said those words. I said them, but I lied them. Then I reached inside a snide bush, and the next thing I knew, I felt my hand touch someone, and I'll bet you know who. And there I was, caught in the snide, and in the dreadful place, those spooky empty pants and I were standing face to face. I yelled for help, I screamed, I shrieked, I howled, I yowled, I cried. Oh, save me from these pale green pants with nobody inside. Oh no. But then a strange thing happened. Why, those pants began to cry. Those pants began to tremble. They were just as scared as I. I never heard such whimpering, and I began to see that I was just as strange to them as they were strange to me. I put my arm around their waist, and I sat right down beside them. I calmed them down, poor empty pants with nobody inside them. And now we meet quite often, those empty pants and I, and we never shake or tremble. We both smile and we say hi. The end. That was The Sneetches and Other Stories by Dr. Seuss.